I am happy. I am healthy. I am wealthy. I am worthy. What am I doing to interfere with it? And in the context of understanding the interference is usually created by something that's instant and obvious in a
Yeah.
consistent or persistent destructive behavior, which is how am I reacting to what I'm afraid of? How am I reacting to pain, which is omnipresent? Fear and pain are omnipresent in the human experience. How am I reacting to it? Since 1981, Justin has been producing world-class Bordeaux-style wines from Paso Robles on California's Central Coast. As the pioneer of Paso, Justin wines are what put Paso Robles on the winemaking map. The Justin team believes that wine should be exceptional from every angle, which is why their team uses boutique winemaking practices like hand harvesting and hand sorting. With a rich history of accolades, Justin produces exceptional wines and is proud to be America's #1 luxury Cabernet. Whether you're the first-time wine drinker or a wine aficionado, Justin has a wine for every celebration and occasion. Visit justinwine.com and enter promo code Playbook20 for 20% off your order. Justin offers the perfect holiday gifts for clients, colleagues, friends, or family. Be sure to check them out at justinwine.com to receive 20% off your order for a limited time and use the promo code Playbook20. It's time to get our Friday training going, and we are doing it on Thursday. And I have a special guest to talk about something that's really important to me, the amazing Chad Sanschagrin. Welcome to our Friday training on Thursday, office hours edition. Brother,
what's happening? What is happening? Friday training on Thursday. It doesn't get any better than that. It does not get any better than that.
I'm like the NFL. Remember when they started doing they would do Monday night football on Thursday, and they couldn't brand it yet because it was like brand new. And then you had the Saturday thing going, and they still branded. So luckily, when you've done it for over 25 years, you could do things like this. But I had to have you on. I talked about December 17th. And why is that date beyond our biggest and best end of the year SoFi Stadium Mastermind and VIP dinner? Why is that such a special day for you?
Yeah. First of all, there's only one thing in the world that would get me to miss that mastermind in SoFi Stadium on December 17th. There's only one thing, and that is it's publish date for my book, for my first book, Keep Telling Yourself. It's been a long time in the making. So it publishes, it drops, it's live at all the stores and everything on December 17th. So it's gonna be a great day. It's our book launch party. So yeah, it's a really, really special day for me and for my team that has worked so tirelessly in getting this book out.
Yeah, we're doing a satellite book launch at the SoFi Stadium Mastermind. We're going to get a ton of different amplified content with all of those special guests and be sending you different segments from those people like Tom Bilyeu and Marshall Falk and others about keep telling yourself. Now, I was talking to Jesse Itzler, who wrote the foreword to your book, and I gave a brief testimonial about how important of a work this is. And there's only been one person ever that has, when they introduced me, made me cry. Usually if I'm crying, it's because they've mispronounced my name. But more importantly, you told a story of why it's so important for you to step on stages. And every time you step on a stage, it's been carried forward. To my team, we laughed at each other. We did a VIP dinner after Aspire. We partner with Aspire every month and do these. And we laughed when Nick Glazer, our super MC and amazing young man, he kind of took and carried forward the idea of what he learned from you, which I think is, for me, the catalyst for keep telling yourself. Because what's the most important thing in life is what you tell yourself.
Yeah.
Not what others tell you. How did it make me cry? What was the story and the importance of stepping on stage?
Yeah, for me, first, thanks. For me, when we gave that talk, when you and I were at that same conference in Florida, It was at a hotel, and I grew up in the hotel industry. I started as a dishwasher right out of high school. I never went to college, and I was always on the other side. People who go into a ballroom, what they don't realize is on the other side of the wall, not the public space, as a public space. On the other side of the wall, there's what they call the back of the house hotel, and that's where all the employees are. That's where the dishwashers are. It's where the cooks are, and everything going on behind the scenes. And so I worked in a hotel, in a big convention hotel, standing on that side of the wall while people like you were in the banquet room, while people like you were on the stage. And I always felt like how amazing it was. I had such a sense of like longing to want to be on that side of the wall, to not be in a uniform, in a dishwasher's uniform, in a houseman's uniform, but to be in a suit and tie, or to be standing on stage. And I always thought that was out of the scope of reality for me. Every meeting, I would peek into their little peepholes. I'd look in and I'd be like, gosh, look at these people. They're getting poured into. They're getting attention. They're getting meals served to them. They have these great speakers. I remember one talk, Bill Clinton came in, and Bill Clinton was giving the keynote. And I was, 5 feet, 10 feet from Bill Clinton on this other side of the wall, wishing, man, what do you have to do to have a life to be invited to a room like that? And so I always thought that it was out of the scope of reality for me. And now I'm on the other side of stage giving talks. And I think that it's important to recognize, as we're in that room, as I'm on that stage, there's 100 people on the other side of the wall wishing they could be on this side of the wall. And I think it's my faith tells me it's my responsibility to let them know that it's possible, to let them know that there's nothing wrong with being on either side of the wall. But if you want, there's no stage, there's no room in which you do not belong. And I think that if people realize that, they would walk into every room like God sent them there, and have the appreciation that you have these gifts, and you just got to lean into them with better stories.
And everybody's been born with those gifts. But there's a lot of people that tell themselves one time or two times. And, I'm on a campaign to tell people, you're not making enough mistakes. Mistakes will never stop you from where you want to be. It'll never stop you or create failure in your life. Mistakes will never do that. It's your lack of commitment. And one of the things that I got out of your book is the word keep. Right. It doesn't say, tell yourself, because other people will tell you a lot of shit one time.
Yeah.
Or even a lot of times your relatives and people that are, maybe protecting you with fear and carrying that forward as your genetic or energetic inheritance to stop you, to limit your imagination and your self-image. How important is that word keep telling yourself? Because it wasn't just one time you saying, hey, I wonder what it's like to be on that stage or to sit in that room. There's a word keep that means more than what you tell yourself, I think.
Yeah. Well, it's redundant, and we don't realize it. We have 90 to 120,000 thoughts a day. 79,000 of those thoughts are the same thoughts you had the day before. And 85% of all your thoughts are negative if your brain is left alone. So it's amazing, if you really pay attention to what you're telling yourself over and over again, how much of it is negative. You don't even realize it. It just becomes so ingrained in you. So whatever you keep telling yourself is what your reality is going to become, because that's how your brain works. You tell your thoughts, this, your words become your thoughts, become your words become your actions become your life. And so forever I was telling myself I was not worthy of being on that side of the room. I don't have a college degree, and that room was only meant for smart people. And so I told myself I wasn't smart enough to be in the room. I didn't have anything to contribute to be in that room. I wasn't, I was a dishwasher. I was just a dishwasher. And so you keep telling yourself, and that's the reality. And so then you have these, what most people call epiphanies. For me is this, or the word epiphany for me is this idea that you've told yourself something new that actually lights you up and fills you up. And unfortunately, for most people, it's a one-time shooting star, as opposed to becoming your North Star. And for me, it became my North Star, that I was going to tell myself this, keep telling myself this over and over, that I was worthy of being in that room, that I could contribute in that room, that God had plans for me bigger than I had for myself. And I kept telling myself that over and over again until that became my reality.
And within the context of that, it's so difficult because it sounds great,
Mhm.
right? It sounds great to me. The book sounds great to me. And what keeps rolling through my head is people telling me, easy for you to say, David Meltzer, easy for you to say, Chad Sanschagrin. It's easy for you to say. And yet, even today, we step on stages and there may not be as many people as we want showing up. There
Yeah,
may not be what we anticipated, and we are away from our families. I was on it. Chad, how tall are you, by the way?
6'8".
Yeah. So when you're 5'7", anywhere over 6'3", you don't really know how tall someone is. So I apologize. And I was on one of my normal active schedules, and we were on a red eye, and Chad was sitting behind me, and so I had more leg room than he did. And he, he, we were coming, I believe, from New York, right from a VIP dinner,
Yeah,
which I barely made, and the plane, and we were landing in Denver so that I could efficiently be back into California at 8 a.m. To
yeah.
start my day. And I asked Chad, well, what are you doing in Denver? He's like, oh, I got to drive tonight, 2 hours to this place, and then I'm doing this. And Chad has a family, has a beautiful family like mine. And I'm thinking to myself, if people only knew
Mm-mm.
that it's not just telling yourself and keep telling yourself, the word keep to me is a lifetime commitment to telling yourself, this is where I want to be or better. These are the behaviors I need in order to progress towards I want to be or better.
Yeah,
Um, Today, what's the perspective when people say, well, it's easy for you to say, what you do today, Chad,
yeah.
is not easy still.
Oh,
And you
yeah.
still have to keep telling yourself every day where you want to be or better.
Oh, listen, it is. First of all, I think to your point, I think that people see the end result. They don't see the 180 flights this year. They don't see the 200 nights in hotels. They don't see me, the anxious anxiety me of whether, enough people are going to show up, if, the book is going to do well. I got a whole staff, a huge, I have 26 employees that count on me to pay their salary, to pay their health benefits, to do these things. And they don't see that. What they see is the end result. And then they say, my gosh, you're lucky. Like, no, I'm not lucky. I'm not lucky. I've worked for it. And that's not to diminish what other people see. There's no hierarchy on suffering. So what's hard for me is different than what's hard for somebody else. What I'm suffering with is different. There's no hierarchy on it. I think the idea, though, is, in those moments, and I said this yesterday in the talk, that you're not judged by your life at its peaks. You're judged by what you do in the valleys. And for me, it's a matter of, in those moments that I'm struggling, that I'm in that valley of despair, and I'm asking myself, is this worth it? Is the nights away from my wife worth it? Is my, the anxiety that I get about whether this book has been 3 years in the making. And I told you before we got on, I said I'm so excited for December 17th, because the culmination of 3 years of work that I put into this book, that my team put into this book, and everybody will have it in my hands. I'm petrified for December 18th, because that means that thousands of people are going to have this book in their hands. And then I'm going to open myself up to the criticism of, this book sucks, this book is no good, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, or even worse, that everybody loves it, it's a runaway hit, and then I got to somehow suppress my ego from getting out of control. So I think there's no rest. I think that for me, it's whether you're commission focused or mission focused. And if you're commission focused, all you care about is the money. If you're mission focused, then you go through all of the struggles, because the mission at the end of the day is worth it. And my mission is to contribute to the well-being of every human being that I interact with. And there's a lot of suffering. People don't talk about, people talk about purpose, but there's as much struggle in purpose as there is glory. If you're living out your purpose, you got to spend, all these nights in hotels, away from your family, the anxiety, all the things we just talked about. And I get this. I ask myself this question a lot, and that is it worth it? And when I'm, away from my family at 3 o'clock in the morning in a hotel room by myself, and I say, is it worth it? The answer's always been yes. And the day that I can say, no, it's not worth it anymore, is the day I'll stop. But after 51 years, that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, and I'm with you. After 56 years, I've realized that pain is not a choice.
Yeah.
It's everyday occurrence,
Yeah.
but the suffering is a choice.
For sure.
And, to be able to, I know how you and I feel about, and we can talk about the 100, 200 days in hotel rooms and the investment that we're making in our mission. That also, by the way, the commissions follow the mission, is how I put it, right? I'm not
Yeah,
commission based, but
that's
I'm
right.
also faithful that commissions follow my mission,
For
and
sure.
always have. And so you said something, interesting about your mission, though. A lot of people talk about, like I do, empowering others, to empower others, changing the world. This is my mission, make a lot of money, help a lot of people, and have a lot of fun. And you see what they're doing behind the scenes, and you hear the surface
Mhm.
level of what that mission is.
Yeah.
Very few people uh, in my life have had the commitment to their mission that you've had. And let me tell people what I mean by that, because like I said, it's the lack of commitment that causes failure, not the mistakes that we make.
Yeah.
And my daughter, and this means so much to me, my daughter, who Chad is like an uncle to, and she looks up to, not just because he's 6'8" and she's 5 feet, but she gets to be around some of the world's thought leaders. Everyone from Sadhguru, Deepak Chopra, to the billionaires, Tillman Fertittas of the world, and the athletes and celebrities that she's always around. And I love, because she's very honest, who she admires.
Mhm.
And just because there's fame and fortune behind a lot of the people that we surround ourselves with, uh, you're one of those people, and she looks up to you in the way that you walk and talk. And so she tells me, Dad, I'm going to run the New York Marathon. I was like, what? She's like, yeah, I'm going to run it. I told Chad that I wanted to run a marathon because he ran 50 marathons when he was 50 in 1 year, and I'd like to do that.
Hmm.
And I said, oh. And she said, and when I told him, he said, stop. And he made me commit and said he would run with me.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
get choked up.
Yeah.
And I know people are probably like, why is Dave getting choked up? Because if you knew, when you keep telling yourself something, and how important it is to not just say, oh, look at the glass half full,
Yeah.
but with a schedule to commit and say, look, you're going to commit, and I'm going to make sure of it because I'm going to do it with you. Someone with the 180 hotel rooms and all of this, imagine what it means to her when at 25 years old, all I want to do is to instill confidence in her,
Yeah.
that she keeps telling herself how awesome she is and how much opportunity she has. And it might sound easy, but it's not. And it takes sometimes just one person to commit to you. And then I hear from a cameraman that you pulled the car over and did a very similar thing about talking to yourself.
Yeah.
How do you have time to
Yeah.
change lives like that?
I think first of all, your daughter is amazing, and I think part of it is you got to have people around you that are the goalies that stop those negative thoughts from penetrating any further. And what I mean by that is we say these things all the time. And the example with the cameraman, I was in the car with him, I was driving. We were driving through a really nice neighborhood, and he said, I wish I could afford a house like one of these one day. Like what kind of example would I be, or leader would I be, if I let that get past, if I just let that go? No, that's those are the stories we tell ourselves, and they keep happening. And somebody's got to be around you to say, hold on, did you hear what you just said? Like this life isn't for some of us. This life is for all of us. The problem is most of us have made to believe that it's just for a select few. And we believe it. Those truths, just because it's true to you doesn't actually make it true. And so what we're trying to do is change people's truth and how they see things. And so for me, it's not about do I have time? It's about how do I not have time? How do I not make time for that? Because otherwise I'm a fraud. if I allow your daughter to stand in front of me and say, "Man, I wish I could run a marathon. I've always wanted to run the New York City Marathon," and I go, "Oh yeah, maybe one day you will," and I walk away, then I'm no better than the preacher with his hand in the collection plate.
Yeah.
I'm a fraud. And at that very moment, it's for me to stop and say, "Hold on, like let's talk about this. You know, what's the reason you want to run it? What are you hoping to get out of it? Who are you going to become in the process? Oh, okay. Well, let's do it." And it wasn't even just let's do it. I said, "Here, grab your phone right now and make a video committing that you're going to do this. Make the commitment to yourself that you're going to do this, and then I'm going to make the commitment that no matter where I am on no matter what's going on in my life, on November 4th, 2025, I'll stand at the foot of the Verrazano Bridge with you, and we'll go for a 26-mile run. And in that 26 miles, you'll that'll be your victory lap, because you'll have become version 2.0 of yourself, version 3.0 of yourself. And it doesn't have to be a marathon. It has to be, it can be writing a book. It can be, showing up for that interview. It could be getting on a podcast. It could be getting on a stage. I have an employee who has told themselves forever that I can't speak in front of a room full of people. No, you absolutely can. And we're going to make that happen, because this idea that that's not for me is something that I hold, that I want to protect, because that was me on the other side of the wall.
And I've never heard the analogy of we need goalies in our lives to not let the negative balls go into the net, because the more of those balls go in, and then you've heard of stacking losses and stacking wins, and it starts with, oh, well, I didn't work out today. Oh, I didn't do this. I didn't. And you don't realize the impact that has on the conscious continuum. When you're stacking L's and not stacking the W's, the little W's that remind yourself of your potential. One of the other things you mentioned was, you're no better than a preacher that puts his hand out, and asks for a donation without getting you there. We both live in faith, and I had lacked faith, even though I was very successful financially. And I didn't even seek wisdom in the way that I should, and for me, I have sometimes a difficult time. It's been coming up explaining faith in corporate settings. I have very generalized things people don't know, other than something bigger than me, an omniscient, all powerful, all knowing source, or God, or Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha. I don't care, that loves you, protects you, and promotes you, perfects you more than even your mom. You are now a corporate icon. You're an author. You speak around the world. You coach people, but yet there are bumpers around the acceptability in the corporate environment. Talking about faith. Now, I will tell you, the more I talk about it, the more it resonates with everyone, and the more applause that I get. I did the Carnegie. So you're talking about very corporate group, Carnegie International Convention from all around the world. These guys flew into San Antonio, and I definitely talked about faith in the infinite loop of giving and abundance. And I have this talk it out thing that gives me an instant. They scan it and then they say absolutely valuable, not valuable. So 99.9% of thousands of people there, absolutely valuable. And it was very faith-based speech, right? Very faith-based speech. One person, not valuable at all. And here's what's funny. I know exactly the person who it was, because he was on the front row at the right, arms folded and shaking his head no the entire time I was speaking.
Yeah.
How are you reconciling your faith in the corporate world to bring everybody and unify everyone?
Yeah, what's funny is at the dinner we were at on Tuesday night in DC, I mentioned my faith. And, when I first started my company 10 years ago, obviously I had a relationship with God. It was not as strong as it is today. It's continuously getting stronger. The more I struggle, the better my relationship gets with God and my faith. And I think that I was afraid. I was afraid to mention my faith in anything I did, because I was afraid that it might alienate some of my clients. Just walk in between the yellow lines, right? Walk down the middle of the road. And what I realized, if you want to build trust with anybody, there's 3 components of trust. It doesn't matter, like there's always and only 3 components of trust, and those are it's the trust triangle. It's authenticity, empathy, and logic. And people have to believe and sense. People have to sense that you are who you are, who you say you are. You have to be authentic. If somebody gets a whiff that you're not who you say you are, the authenticity is off and the trust is gone. And so I was walking this yellow line because I was afraid. I was afraid that if I proclaimed my faith, not to push my faith on them, but I was putting my faith in the closet.
Yeah.
I'd show up, I'd be faithful. And then when the talk began, I mentioned no mention of God, no mention of faith, and I put it in the closet. Now we do not drive faith in any of our talks. It's not about us trying to change somebody else's faith. But I realized I was being so inauthentic to myself that I wasn't being true. And what I was deeply afraid of was losing people, was causing me to lose people because I wasn't talking about it.
There's the world.
And so I leaned into it. And it's not for me to push my faith on somebody else, but I'm sitting in that chair. I'm standing on that stage because God put me there. That's what my faith tells me. And for me, the more I shy away from being afraid to talk about my faith, the more I show up in the wardrobe that God designed for me, the better my life has been. And the better it resonates with people. It's not going to resonate with everybody. I understand that. And the message is not about faith. The message is about, and it doesn't matter what you believe in. The message is you are capable of amazing things. You are worthy of amazing things. And if you believe in Buddha, if you believe in God, you believe in nothing, at least have faith in yourself. You can have faith in yourself without having any religion. Have faith that you are capable and worthy of an amazing life. And so for me, now I lean into it. And if it offends people, I don't apologize, because my intent is never to offend. But what I do is I say, this is what I believe. This is what I believe. And I'm on stage talking right now. And if you believe something different, then join me on stage and you talk about what you believe. But I'm not going to put my faith in the closet anymore.
I love that. And I think the key in understanding a lot of times what we do to avoid something is exactly what happens, right?
Yeah.
Dr. Wayne Dyer, one of our mentors, always said, what you resist persists. And I giggle when I look at your book and think about the first time when I had my December 18th, as you're having your book launch on December 17th of Keep Telling Yourself. And my first book was Connected to Goodness. And my greatest fear was bad reviews like yours. You said, I don't want, that day to come, the December 18th. And sure enough, Goodreads is the #1 online reviewer of books. Yeah. And the very first review from a legitimate source, not just, the lovers and the haters out there, but the first one was David Meltzer's an idiot. This book sucks. And I'm paraphrasing, but it was pretty much David Meltzer's an idiot, sucks. He thinks you can speak to water and change the molecular structure of water by speaking positively or negatively to water, that it will change the molecular structure of the water. Now, I had done research and found out that a lot of scientists that are credible say this is true as well. I believe this, Chad, that you can talk to water. And if you keep telling the water, just like you keep telling yourself, who is 80% water or more, you keep telling yourself something, it's going to turn the water. Yeah. It's actually going to change you.
Agreed.
This is a core of my book and the core of your book. And so I went to my wife, Julie, and I said, oh, I'm done. I'm never writing another book, right? It sucks. Mm-hmm. And what happened was exactly what happened to you when you started to speak your truth. You started to live in your essence. Is that all the people that agreed with this Goodreads lady didn't buy my book. She protected me from any more bad reviews, because if someone believed like she believed, they would have hated my book as well.
Yeah.
And thought I was an idiot and thought it sucked. But even more importantly, all the people that would have been in the middle of the road, been like David Meltzer's vanilla, right? He's not holding in his truth. He's playing in that gray line. He's too afraid to speak his mind of what he believes, not to push what he believes on me, but just to explain what he believes in case it inspires someone else to believe in what they believe. And yet, I believe that the book took off because the people started saying, hey, this lady's an idiot. I believe what David Meltzer is saying. I believe you keep telling yourself you're 80% water, that if you keep talking to the water, you're going to change the molecular structure of your water. You're going to change yourself. You change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And it's scientific. It's not just theory, philosophy, or spirituality or religion that says it, although they all say it.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we both have experienced. And for me, that's what this book is about. Keep telling yourself. This show is brought to you by BetterHelp. Therapy is a great tool for facing your fears and finding ways to overcome them, because sometimes the scariest thing is not facing our fears in the first place and holding ourselves back. It's helpful for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself. It isn't just for those who've experienced major trauma. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Overcome your fears with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/playbook today to get a 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/playbook. Imagine starting a small business, your first customer, first hire, first real paycheck. But everything isn't just exciting, it's scary. That's where JustWorks come in, the all-in-one platform that supports small business growth. Access seamless tools that help with benefits, payroll, HR, and compliance with transparent pricing. It's time to make payroll painless, run payroll in 90 seconds or less, and automate payments so you can set it and forget it. Did you know in 2023 alone, they processed over 25.6 billion in trusted payroll customers? Don't worry about the paperwork piling up either. They take care of payroll tax documents and reporting to help you stay compliant. Visit justworks.com/podcast to join the thousands of small businesses that trust JustWorks to take care of payroll, benefits, compliance, and more. That's justworks.com/podcast. Now, we're going to take some questions, but before we do, let us know some logistics, right? Everybody here, we need to pre-order it. Where do we go? Where's the book launch? How can we create and leverage a community of people that are here to help one another and know people that can help you? This is a book that can change people's lives when they change the way they look at things. And this is a book that clearly explains your story and how to do it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, obviously, people can, I shouldn't say obviously, Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, BooksAMillion.com, Target.com is all available for pre-sales. And this is obviously the first book I've ever written. I didn't know what went on, and we were really blessed that Matt Holt Publishing and Penguin Random House picked this up, and we had pre-sales for 6 months. And I was like, pre-sales for 6 months? What do you mean? And they were like, yeah, we want to see how the book is going to do in pre-sales. And I was like, oh, okay. And they said, like, that'll determine what we do, how many stores it goes in, if it goes in stores live, if it's just online. And the numbers have been nothing short of unbelievable. And it's not a book, the book is not a faith-based book. It doesn't have, don't talk about God a lot in it. I think I mentioned 2 or 3 times my relationship with God, but it's got God's handprints all over it. And I think that if people buy it, they'll see that, we're just a collection of the stories we tell ourselves. This coming from a guy who graduated high school with a 1.6 grade point average. I never got better than a D in any English class. So yeah, you can buy it. You can go to keeptellingyourself.com. You can buy it on Target.com. You can buy it on Barnes & Noble. And it's going to drop on the 17th. So everybody will have it in their hands on December 17th, which is 3 weeks from today. and yesterday, and yeah, I'm yeah, I'm just overjoyed and overblessed.
Yeah, blessed. Shout out to Matt Holt, by the way, Holt Publishing, who I
You just
recently
signed with, right?
I just signed a 2-book deal distributed by Simon and Schuster, and we'll be coming out with "Don't Do Business with Dicks" in the 5 daily practices. So he could.
He's a great human being, Matt Holt. If like, and you know, the books that he's published, you know, all Pat Lencioni's books and John Gordon and Gino
Yeah.
Wickman and some of the man, and to be on that, once I heard you sign with him, I was like, oh, shit just got real. I said, I have the same publisher as David Meltzer. I said, this is
Well, it's
legit.
nice. I lost. So my agent was Bill Gladstone, and he was Eckhart Tolle's agent and the Dummy Book agent. And people would ask me, why'd you choose Bill Gladstone? He's passed away? But I always laugh. I said, if God wasn't telling me the right agent, I go, I'm the perfect mix for someone who published someone like Eckhart Tolle and the Dummy books. So it worked out perfectly.
I'm right in the middle of those two.
I'm right. I'm the combo. Right. I'm the combo. But we are so blessed. So let's answer some questions. They're coming through. And as someone asked, this is interesting. That's good. You are embracing the meaning of your last name, Chad.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you when someone says you're embracing your last name?
What a what a great question. I grew up with a single mother. I didn't have a present father in my life, and so my last name is Sanschagrin, Sans Chagrin. So without Sans, and then chagrin, remorse or regret. So without regret. And I remember when I was 16 years old, I was not a good I wasn't a bad kid. I was a victim. I had a victim mindset. Nothing was my fault. Everything was everybody else's fault. The circumstance fault. I didn't have a father. I was poor. I didn't have it was never about me. It was about the circumstance destroying my life. And I was 17 years old. I was so mad because I didn't have a father. And I thought about changing my last name. So my mother's last name is Fleck. So my mother's maiden name is Fleck. And my name is Sanschagrin, but I'm not really a Sanschagrin because I have no relationship with my father, but I'm not really a Fleck either. So my middle name is Everett, Chad Everett, like the movie star Chad Everett.
Yeah.
So at one point I thought, like, really long and hard. I was in a ditch. I was in the valley of despair and nothing was going my way. And I thought, oh, you know why it is? It's because my last name. Like, this is how desperate people get. And so I literally thought about changing my name. I couldn't afford to do it. I couldn't afford to change my last name. If I could afford to change my last name, today I'd be Chad Everett. But I kept my last name and I didn't know the meaning of it. And years later, after I had shifted my life and changed my meaning of my life and my purpose, somebody came up to me and they said, "Oh my gosh, you have such an amazing last name." And I said, "I do? Like, people can't even pronounce it. It doesn't make sense." And she goes, "No, it makes perfect sense. Your last name means without remorse, without regret."
That's beautiful.
And for me, I thought I had so much regret for who I was and how much shame for who I was for all those years. And it wasn't until that moment, it was one of those shift moments. I've never talked about this. It was one of those shift moments that I realized that I was exactly where I was supposed to be. And everything that happened for me, all the ditches and all the valleys, all were supposed to get me here because I live my life now without remorse or without regret.
I love that. And it's interesting that I thought your name was just a tongue twister for me on all my TV shows, since you're such an amazing co-host with me. And what made it easier was I left out the S after San. So I kept trying to say Sanschagrin, and it's Sanschagrin. And I have no regret that I finally learned how to pronounce it correctly. Yeah, and I have spend a fortune on editing. When I pronounce your name, it was like 6 different times. And I screwed it up, and we had to take it out and then do a little B-roll.
It was so good though when you finally got it. I was like, "Yeah, holy shit, you nailed it!"
I know, I get it now. Now it's interesting because our lives parallel so much, other than our height. And Dad's not present, the poor, I got better grades than you. That was the only difference as well. But more importantly, my name, which I never took stock in, I never realized until I had the same moment. My name, David, means beloved. My last name, Meltzer, is German, which means servant or waiter. And
Mm.
so my name means beloved servant.
Oh, wow.
And it's
Fitting.
interesting how you walk into your own name, even if you don't know what it actually means.
Yeah.
But when it actually means something, now we're walking like our name, not into our name. And I have that same journey. Let's get to some of these other questions. I wanted to get one on trust. I saw in here. Here it is. Will persistence destroy trust? How do you handle destructive persistence?
Ooh. Destructive persistence. I don't know what they mean by that. So,
I think bad habits, right? One
yeah,
destructive would be behaviors that are not aligned with where you want to be, that are
yeah,
interfering with where you want to be.
yeah, yeah. For me, what a great question, and I really want to spend some time thinking about. I'm going to answer it the best I can, but I really want to think about this idea of destructive persistence. But I think the idea is, you know, people look at their actions, you look at your habits and where do they come from? So your habits come from, obviously doing these repetitions over and over. But where do those repetitions come from? Well, you do what you feel. You do what you feel. And so most people, the behaviors are acted out of emotions. Those emotions come from a story or a belief. And so for me, when I see somebody, when I have, and I've been there, when I have destructive patterns, where nothing I do is right. And I look back and it's because it goes back. And this isn't a plug for the book, but this go back and it's because of the stories I'm telling myself that this is what I have to do. I think part of it now, when I look at it, is I have persistence, but I have persistence towards becoming, not achieving. And so what I mean by that is I'm not looking to achieve. I don't run a marathon to achieve a medal. I'm not writing a book to achieve something. What I'm doing is I'm doing things to become something. And what I'm trying to become is version 2.0. I'm trying to become, we call it betterment, but I'm trying to become a better father, a better husband, a better speaker, a better leader, a better Christian, a better friend, and so for me, all my patterns, all my behaviors are in pursuit of that. And it kind of keeps the destructive things out of the way. It doesn't mean I'm perfect, because I certainly self-destruct sometimes. And I think that's where it's important to have people like my wife who pull me out of that ditch and see that I'm heading down the wrong path and are able to pull me aside and say, hey, what you're doing right now isn't getting you to that version of you that you want to become. And maybe you need a reset. And I think for me, that's the best I can answer. I love the idea of destructive persistence. And I do want to sit on that for a little bit because I've never heard that before.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that term. Obviously, I deal with understanding behavior in, I think our superpower is consistency in the pursuit of our potential. And when I shifted the paradigm in my life, Chad, to understanding that it was more a matter, and this is where my faith became so strong, of I am.
Yeah.
What am I doing to interfere with it? And it goes along with, if you could hold up your book real quick, because somebody's asking, what's the title of the book? It's Keep Telling Yourself. Completely aligned with this book is I am happy. I am healthy. I am wealthy. I am worthy. What am I doing to interfere with it? And in the context of understanding, the interference is usually created by something that's instant and obvious in a
Yeah.
consistent or persistent destructive behavior, which is, how am I reacting to what I'm afraid of? How am I reacting to pain, which is omnipresent? Fear and pain are omnipresent in the human experience. How am I reacting to it? Do I have a need to be offended? Right. And one of the interesting things about witnesses and intimate witnesses in our lives, we both have very strong witnesses, meaning our wives.
Yeah.
And they are annoying because they are both repetitive and honest. And
Yeah.
human beings hate repetitive and honest, but human beings only learn from repetitive and honest people. And it's a nuance that creates interference more than it does education, wisdom, and faith. Uh, to that measure, how important is it to be, repetitive? Because you influence so many people now in your family and outside of it, but
Yeah.
also extremely honest
Mm.
about, hey, you got to reset yourself but
Yeah.
not only to be honest to others, but most importantly, be honest with yourself.
Oh, listen, this is, you know, there's no human being in this world that I love more than my wife. And she is, like, when I think about that, when I think about, none of this is possible without God and my wife. And God knew exactly who to align me with when I needed them, which was my wife. My children now, obviously my daughters equally. Um, but I had this realization, probably 5 years into our marriage, is I believed my wife rescued me. My wife
Mm.
saved me. But she didn't really save me. I saved me. She just made me realize that I could save myself. And what I realized was how much I loved my wife. And I realized, my gosh, if I loved my wife this much, what would happen if I loved myself the same amount? What if I loved myself the same amount that I love my wife? What if I loved myself more than I love my wife? Then I could show up even better for my wife. I could show up even better for my kids, because there's a great book called The Shame That Binds Us. And I think that for the longest time, it was this shame that I had that was stopping me from loving myself. And I think that's the most important thing. And it's the hardest thing for people to swallow. Can you love yourself the way you love everybody else? And when I started loving myself for all my imperfections, all the things, and I was like, I love myself as much as I love Kim, as I love Madison and Mackenzie. I love myself that much. And when I stop loving myself is when she recognizes it. And that is when self-love disappears. That's when you need that person that you love so much to let the focus go back on you, like you're getting away. And my wife doesn't do it. My wife is a genius. She's an absolute genius. I've never met a woman as smart as my wife. I've never met a person as smart as my wife. And but she never once told me what to do. She never said, do this, don't do this. She never told me I was broken, I had to be fixed. What she did was she led by example. She led by example on how she lived her life and how she devoted herself to being an amazing mother, an amazing business owner, amazing lawyer, amazing psychologist, all these things that she is. And I just watched her. And for me, I watched her, which liberated me to live out the same life. And I think that that's so important to find somebody that allows you to love them, but love yourself just as much.
Yeah, you can't give what you don't have.
Yeah.
And the things for me that come to mind, because I feel the same way about my wife, is you can't give more love than you have for yourself. You can't give more forgiveness than you have for yourself. You can't give more gratitude than you have for yourself. And there's only one thing that I add, which I know you believe as well, is beyond loving ourselves to allow ourselves to give that to other people that we love the most and to love us the most is I think that if you want everything in life, you have to believe there's something bigger than you that loves you even more
Yeah, that's right.
than your wife loves you or you love yourself. That has more love, an infinite amount of it, an infinite amount of everything for everyone. And it's not to put or define for others, whether that's a spiritual, a philosophical, a theoretical, or religious. It's up to you. But I think you're hurting your own pursuits if you don't believe loving yourself is the most important thing because you can't give what you don't have. But to realize there's something bigger than you that loves you even more than your mom or your wife or yourself, and
That's right.
that's
That's
where
right.
that comes from. Uh,
Sure.
next question. Um, Vulnerability, humility. One of my favorite quotes that I've lived by since 2008 is you're either humble or you're about to be.
Yeah.
And beyond humility comes vulnerability. And you have to embrace that vulnerability in order to get better at learning from the mistakes, both personally and professionally. Um, People have a difficult time. There's layers of vulnerability I find. I still, there's still the darkest secrets in the world that I'm not vulnerable. I remember Gary Vee, who's a friend of both of ours. Uh, I told him, I can't believe I told people I went bankrupt. I can't believe it, Gary. And people are actually more attracted to me. They
Yeah.
identify with me. They want to know financial advice from me because I lost everything. When I had everything, nobody asked me for any advice on finance. Now everybody wants to know my financial advice because I lost everything. And he's like, "Oh, Dave," he goes, "just wait to hear what you tell people, how vulnerable and the things that you've told people." Um,
Uh,
how can we fight that humility and vulnerability? And how important is it in your book, in your speeches, and in your coaching, all the things that you do? How important is that vulnerability?
oh, I'm laughing. I'm laughing because I had the same conversation with Gary. I don't know if I told you this, but
No.
I was at Gary's office in New York, and I was talking to him, and I said something like, "Well, I don't have a college degree," and I never told anybody I never went to college, ever. It was the shame that I hid, right? Because it was going to be too damning for an executive coach to admit that he doesn't have a college degree. And he saw it, and I was like, I don't have a college, and I was like, oh shit, like I literally said, oh shit, and I said, I can't believe I just said that. He goes, said what? I said that I don't have a college degree. He goes, wait, you didn't go to college? And I was like, no. He said, and you're this successful? He said, why the hell would you hide that? Why would you hide that from anybody? And I was like, well, wait. He said, that's your superpower. Like your superpower is the fact that you didn't go to college. The superpower is that where you came from, the negative mindsets. He said, why would you hide that? And I was like, wait, are you giving me permission, Gary? And then Jesse, obviously, Jesse, who's a great friend of mine, said the same thing.
Jesse Itzler, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He said the same thing. He's like, no, you got to lean into that. And it was the first time that I realized that it didn't matter what room I was in. There's an African word called Sa'ubanu, and Sa'ubanu means I see you, I see all of you. Well, I leaned into this idea of Sa'ubanu that I was going to show people all of me. I was going to show them the scared side and the vulnerable and the anxious side and the afraid side. They weren't just going to see the highlight reels of my life. They were going to see the struggles and everything. And yes, maybe that puts me in a position of vulnerability. But the idea is that's where, if the idea of trust, and we talk about trust triangle, vulnerability is, to me, is I'm going to give you something. I'm going to share something, not knowing how you're going to handle it. And so if I want to build trust with somebody, then I have to show them things that I don't know how they're going to handle it. And trust will be delivered if they handle it correctly and don't use it against me. And I can tell you, to this day, maybe there are haters about me. I'm sure there are haters that that make fun of me because I don't have a college degree or don't say the right things. But more people, what you do is when you're vulnerable, you liberate others to show up present and fully as well. You should liberate others to say, yeah, I don't have a college degree, or yeah, I get scared too, or I'm worried too, or I get anxious about this too. And so for me, this is me, scars and all.
I love it. And we're going to rename this, by the way. Mikey is here. We're renaming this Keep Telling Yourself Training with Chad Sanschagrin. I will provide an exercise and a guide to everyone. And anyone that texts me or email me a pre-order, I will sign my book. I will send it to you. I'll pay for shipping in my book if you pre-order Keep Telling Yourself, and I'll provide you an exercise and a guide about Keep Telling Yourself. Wow. Email me directly, that david@dmeltzer.com. You're welcome to the guide, but if you'd like my book signed, sent to you, paid for shipping and the book, then you go ahead and send me the pre-order for Keep Telling Yourself. It's everywhere, Walmart and Target and Amazon, of course. But go ahead and do that. This is the Keep Telling Yourself training, and I'm really inspired by that. So I want to thank, just to finish up, Chad, this is probably the best question that is, to me, a revelation. It truly talks to the truth. Somebody asked us, what do both of us keep telling ourselves, keep telling yourself, that has the most positive impact on our perspective and mindset? I'm going to go first because I want to finish strong with the expert of Keep Telling Yourself. Hold up the book. Once again, email me, david@dmeltzer.com. I have an exercise and a guide that will entice you to buy the book if you're not sure yet. But if you are sure, pre-order it. It's everywhere. And I will sign my book, send it to you, pay for shipping in my book, david@dmeltzer.com. Keep telling yourself. Here's what I keep telling myself that has changed my life. In the 11th grade, unlike Chad, I had a lot of Jewish guilt in my life, so I had to get good grades. The fetus wasn't fully developed in my family until you went to graduate school. My siblings, none of them got a B. So you can imagine the pressure that was on me. They went to Harvard, Penn, Columbia, and graduated summa cum laude.
Oh,
And so there was a lot of pressure. But in the 11th grade, I took AP English. And I had an amazing Dr. Shore was the name of my professor, and he taught Kierkegaard, existentialism. And I learned these two words that I keep telling myself. I am.
mm,
And I know there's been tons of books in every respect, philosophical, theoretical, religious, spiritual books. I am, Adonai. There's tons of different words for I am. Some people call I am God
yeah,
in its essence. But beyond the perspective of I am, meaning holy, with something bigger than me, oneness, the infinite, abundant, unified system of thought that we belong to, I am. What it really changed in my perspective is another thing I tell people all the time is be more interested than interesting, which is aligned with the vulnerability talk that we had. That in these two simple words that I told Dr. Shore, who also has passed away, oh, I get it. I remember 17 years old, right? Oh, I am? Yeah, I get it. And here I am almost 40 years later. I'm turning 57th on January 11th, the launch of our Napoleon Hill revitalized Napoleon Hill Institute. Clement Stone and Napoleon Hill founded it January 11th, 1958, 10 years before I was born. Here I am 40 years later. And my perspective and mindset of I am is I'm only on the surface of what I am, that there's so
mm,
much potential of what I am, and that I continually have to be more interested, seek wisdom and faith in order to peel away or create a greater awareness to what I am. And for me, I keep telling myself every single day, I am what I want to become. What am
mm,
I doing to interfere with it? I am already what I am. What am I doing to interfere with it? I am what I was. What am I doing to interfere with it? And I have the power to give the meaning to my past and the meaning to my future. And the power of today is that I have the power to be productive, accessible, and gracious and shorten the distance of
yeah.
resistance of who I am. And so for me, I keep telling myself, which is why I reread this book called Keep Telling Yourself. Keep telling yourself, I am.
Mm.
What am I doing to interfere with it?
So good. I think we should end with that because I don't follow that. Because mine, Dave. First of all, thank you obviously for having me on and just your friendship. Obviously you're one of my closest friends, and my confidants, my coaches. You are everything I need in the people that I surround myself with. So thanks for having me on. For me, mine's not that much different. It's just a tad, and it's what the story that the soundtrack that's running in the back of my head all the time, and everything I do is I am worthy of blank. And so I believe because you don't get what you want in life, you get what you believe you're worthy of, and the universe will deliver exactly what you believe you're worthy of. If you think you're worthy of struggle and strife, the universe will give you a ton of that. If you believe you're worthy of love and respect, the world will give you a ton of that. And so when I think about this book, Satan wants to convince me that I'm not worthy of writing an amazing book that can change lives. And that devil will creep in. The critic in your head will creep in and tell you, listen, and it says in the book that your stories are built on a foundation of sand. I say this literally in the book, and that's that was my story. And so now, whenever I'm struggling, whenever I want something, whenever I need something, whenever I want to deliver something, there is not a time. There's not been one time that I've gone to on one of your dinners or on speech or talks. I've given, I don't even know, 200 talks this year. And there's not been one time that before I start, I don't look down at my wrist that has a bracelet that says I am enough. I snap and say I'm worthy of delivering contribution right now. I'm worthy of being on this stage. I'm worthy of today, before I came in here, I'm worthy of being on this show. And so for me, whatever I'm struggling with, I go right back to I am worthy of blank, because I know that God will give me what I believe I'm worthy of. and I believe I'm worthy. I believe I'm worthy of a life of abundance. I didn't believe that for a long time. I believe it now, and that is the life that I'm creating with God's blessings.
Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, here on Keep Telling Yourself Training, the incredible Chad Sanschagrin. Follow him. He has an amazing community, the Cannonball community as well. Check out all the things that he's doing. But most importantly, pre-order this book. Don't make him nervous before December 17th. We got a whole bunch of time. I'll be celebrating him at the greatest stadium ever created. We'll be doing a West Coast mastermind and VIP dinner honoring Chad Sanschagrin and keep telling yourself. Once again, Chad, thanks for joining me. I will see you soon. Thanks for always showing up the way you show up. I appreciate it.
Much love, brother. Have a great time in Egypt, brother.
I will. Thank you, brother.
Bye.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's the amazing Chad Sanschagrin. This has been the Keep Telling Yourself training. If you want the exercise guide, I will once again send that to you. Email me, david@dmeltzer.com. If you would like and can pre-order his book, I will sign, send, and ship my book for free. If you go ahead and email me proof that you pre-ordered that book, make sure you share and also review that book. When you get a chance, we want to help out everyone in our community, the community of people that want to help each other and know people that can help each other. If you want to keep up with us, once again, our end of the year SoFi Stadium Mastermind and VIP dinner, Tom Bilyeu, Marshall Falk, and many, many more. Come and join us. Get into our text community, 949-298-2905. 949-298-2905. Get notified where and when I'm going to be and who I'm going to be with. Invited, not obligated. That's on email and text. Invited, not obligated. David@dmeltzer.com. Remember, most importantly, be more interested than interesting. Be kind to your future self and do good deeds. We'll see you later. Thanks for joining us for the Keep Telling Yourself training.